The next day, Ryu Min dressed in a sleek black suit, radiating sophistication and style. "Wow, what's the occasion?" Ryu Won asked, clearly impressed, his tone curious. "Got a hot date or something?" Ryu Min chuckled, shaking his head. "No, nothing like that. I have an important meeting with a potential business partner." Ryu Won blinked in surprise. "Business partner? Are you getting into something new?" "Yeah, you could say that," Ryu Min replied calmly, adjusting his cufflinks. Ryu Won's mind raced. He couldn't help but feel a twinge of concern, remembering Ryu Min's past foray into stock trading. Now, Ryu Min was diving into the business world? Ryu Won quietly worried about the possibility of his brother facing disappointment. He wondered what would happen if this venture didn't go the way Ryu Min expected. Noticing the worry etched on his younger brother's face, Ryu Min smiled. It warmed his heart to see that Ryu Won was more anxious about his emotional state than the potential financial fallout. With a confident grin, Ryu Min reassured him, "Don't stress. I'll tell you everything after the meeting. Just trust me, alright?" Won nodded, still slightly uneasy but reassured by Ryu Min's words. "I trust you completely. You know that," he said sincerely. Ryu Min ruffled his brother's hair. "Good. Now, just stay home and be safe. The streets are dangerous, especially with all these players running wild." "I know," Ryu Won agreed, recalling recent news reports. "It's getting crazy out there. Players are abusing their abilities, committing all kinds of crimes. I even heard about criminals escaping from prisons overseas." "Yeah," Ryu Min acknowledged grimly. "The moment someone reaches the right age, they can become a player. That's just fueling the chaos. Every month, the number of people is shrinking, and players are only getting stronger. I can see where this is headed, and it's not good." Ryu Min's thoughts drifted to the future he feared. He imagined a world where players ruled, and non-players might be persecuted, possibly even enslaved by those who had no regard for the law. Determined to avoid that dark future, Ryu Min continued, "That's why I need to build Black Scythe's reputation, before things fall apart completely." Concerned for his brother's safety, he added, "And remember, be extra careful when you go out, alright?" One nodded. "Okay, I will. But hey, what's your class, anyway?" he asked with a playful glint in his eye. Ryu Min smirked. "That's a secret." One pouted, his expression adorable. "Come on, I really want to know." With a playful grin, Ryu Min pinched Ryu Won's cheek, teasingly promising to reveal his class soon. "Now, focus on your fancy lunch instead of craving those black bean noodles, alright?" Ryu Min joked. Ryu Won, rubbing his cheek, replied with a light-hearted, "Ow, got it." Standing by the grand entrance of the building, Ryu Min reflected, knowing that Giant Rock would pick this place for their meeting. It made sense to operate on familiar turf. As he walked into the luxurious hotel, Ryu Min noted that the location, an Osang Group property, was actually owned by Giant Rock, though this was a well-guarded secret, likely known only by Giant Rock's closest circle, and now Ryu Min. Ryu Min knew he had to use this insider knowledge to his advantage, but first, he had to establish the right impression. Playing the role of an unassuming, slightly naive businessman was key. With that in mind, he approached the front desk, nervously introducing himself and explaining his meeting arrangements. The receptionist asked if he was there to meet with the CEO of Heavenly Demon Consulting. Ryu Min confirmed, and she informed him that the CEO would be arriving shortly, directing him to the lounge to wait. Thanking her, Ryu Min moved to the lounge, deliberately adopting an absent-minded air as he glanced up at the impressive chandeliers. Acting as though he were new to such an extravagant setting was all part of the plan. Then, someone approached him and asked, "Are you Ryu Min?" Finally, he's here, Ryu Min thought to himself. He turned to greet the newcomer but stopped when he saw the bodyguard standing in front of him. The guard asked if they had crossed paths at the Galleria Forest, and Ryu Min confirmed, recalling the encounter with a subtle smile. Ryu Min recalled seeing the bodyguard during moving day when he had been handing out rice cakes with the actress Erin. Suddenly, the bodyguard bowed, acknowledging the encounter and apologizing for any previous disrespect. Inside, the bodyguard was puzzled by Ryu Min's youth. This kid didn't even look 20, yet he was supposedly the major investor with 280 billion won at his disposal. Doubt simmered in the bodyguard's mind about how someone so young could wield such vast wealth. Ryu Min, using his mind-reading rune, picked up on these thoughts but kept his expression calm. He brushed off the apology, explaining that the bodyguard had acted out of ignorance, and mentioned that he hadn't known the CEO of Heavenly Demon Consulting lived in the building either. The bodyguard quickly corrected him, explaining that he wasn't the CEO. "Huh?" Ryu Min responded, confused. The man then formally introduced himself as On Sang-cheol, head of the department. He added that Giant Rock, the CEO, was running late, and that was why On had arrived early. On then invited Ryu Min to wait inside until Giant Rock arrived. Nodding, Ryu Min followed him into the building and sat down, settling into a comfortable chair. After ensuring Ryu Min was seated, On excused himself, stepping outside to discreetly send a text. He informed Giant Rock about meeting with the shareholder but expressed doubts about whether this young man was truly the one behind the massive investment. He suspected there might be someone else pulling the strings and urged Giant Rock to be cautious. Back in the room, Ryu Min picked up on the bodyguard's suspicions, unsurprised. He knew Giant Rock was the type to send someone ahead to size up his guests. Moments later, Giant Rock entered with a warm greeting, introducing himself as the CEO of Heavenly Demon Consulting. With a friendly handshake, Giant Rock met Ryu Min's gaze, his tone respectful yet guarded. Ryu Min returned the handshake as Giant Rock gestured for him to sit back down, inviting On Sang-cheol to join them as well. Ryu Min understood the subtle move. It was Giant Rock's way of taking control of the meeting while maintaining an air of hospitality. As the food arrived, Giant Rock suggested they enjoy the meal before diving into the business discussion, setting the stage for their conversation. Giant Rock mentioned that a variety of traditional Korean dishes had been prepared and hoped they suited Ryu Min's taste. The table was laden with an array of tempting dishes, meats, vegetables, fish, and chicken, all beautifully presented. He added that, with such gourmet food from a high-end hotel, it was bound to be a treat. After savoring a few bites, Ryu Min smiled and complimented the meal. "This is really delicious," he remarked, clearly impressed. Giant Rock was pleased by the compliment and nodded, happy that Ryu Min was enjoying the food. But beneath the surface, Giant Rock was scrutinizing Ryu. The bodyguard's earlier comments about Ryu Min's youth echoed in his mind. Giant Rock found it hard to believe that someone so young could be responsible for an investment as significant as 280 billion won. He wondered if there was someone behind Ryu Min, someone from my family. Like his brothers or an uncle. He was determined to find out. With a friendly grin, Giant Rock complimented Ryu Min again, saying, "It's impressive to see someone so young holding such a significant stake." Curious, he casually asked Ryu Min's age. "I'm 20, Ryu Min replied. Giant Rock paused briefly before responding, "I see, I'm 29 myself. It's refreshing to meet someone in their 20s at your level." Ryu Min smiled and simply said, "Yeah, same here." The conversation shifted as Giant Rock, not one to beat around the bush, asked how Ryu Min had managed to accumulate such wealth at such a young age. "Were you born into a wealthy family?" he inquired. Ryu Min noticed Giant Rock's straightforward approach. He smiled slightly and answered, "No, I wasn't born into wealth. I was just an average student up until recently." "Up until recently?" Giant Rock asked, clearly intrigued. Ryu Min leaned forward a bit and asked, "Have you heard about the person who won the Noto lottery 4 times in a row, becoming a billionaire practically overnight?" Giant Rock nodded, recalling the news. Ryu Min smiled and revealed, "Well, that person is me. I'm the one who caused that media frenzy a few months back." Giant Rock was visibly taken aback and asked if Ryu Min was really the one everyone had been talking about. With a calm nod, Ryu Min simply responded, "Yes." However, Giant Rock was puzzled. The article he had read mentioned that the lottery winner had only earned 60 billion won. So how had Ryu Min managed to invest a staggering 280 billion? Ryu Min explained that after his lottery win, he had invested heavily in Bitcoin, confirming what Giant Rock had suspected. Giant Rock, impressed, praised Ryu Min for making such a bold move, admitting that he himself wouldn't have had the guts to invest such a large amount. The bodyguard, who had been silently observing, suggested that Ryu Min's success must have been due to sheer luck. Ryu Min, however, shook his head. "It wasn't just luck," he said firmly. The bodyguard, unconvinced, brought up an article where Ryu Min was reported to have said he saw the lottery numbers in a dream. "If that's not luck, then what is?" he asked, sounding skeptical. Ryu Min smiled and clarified, "I lied when I said I saw them in a dream." He paused briefly, realizing that this moment could be crucial to gaining Giant Rock's trust. "This is something I've never shared with anyone before," he said, his voice lowering as if to prepare them for a revelation. "I have the rune of foresight." Giant Rock and his bodyguard exchanged glances, clearly surprised. They pressed Ryu Min for more details. With confidence, Ryu Min explained that the rune of foresight allowed him to see glimpses of the future, several years ahead. "In other words," he continued, "it's like being a seer who can predict what's to come." Giant Rock and the bodyguard were taken aback. The bodyguard, particularly, found it hard to believe. "Is this guy serious?" he thought. "A seer? What kind of explanation is that?" Ryu-min remained composed, his expression unwavering as he was surrounded by a faint, almost mystical, cerulean aura. Yes, that's how I knew the lottery numbers, Ryu-min affirmed confidently. The rune of foresight showed them to me. There was a moment of silence as Giant Rock and his bodyguard tried to process what they had just heard. Could it be true? Or was Ryu-min fabricating an elaborate story? Either way, Ryu-min's conviction left them questioning their doubts. Ryu-min went on to explain that his success with Bitcoin wasn't a gamble, but a calculated move based on his ability to foresee the future. He had staked everything because he believed in his power to see what was coming. But then, Giant Rock, still skeptical, asked if Ryu could demonstrate it. Could he predict his next action, for example? Ryu-min thought about it. He could easily guess Giant Rock's next move by reading his thoughts. But, Ryu-min decided to put limits on his ability to make it more believable. After a brief pause, Ryu-min apologized, explaining that his powers didn't work on command. They activate randomly, he said, trying to downplay the full extent of his abilities. Giant Rock took a sip of his drink, considering the response. That makes sense, he thought. A power like seeing the future should have limits, otherwise, it would be too overpowered. Is that so? He muttered aloud, still processing. Then, something clicked for Giant Rock. He needed to know, did you invest $280 billion in Heavenly Demon Consulting because you foresaw its success? He asked. Ryu-min smiled slightly and nodded. Exactly. I invested because I saw the company's potential for rapid growth. But how far will it go? Giant Rock asked, pressing for more information. It'll join the Korean Composite Stock Price Index within 6 months, Ryu-min said confidently. Giant Rock was stunned. If that actually happened, it would be monumental, not just for the company, but for him personally. His father would finally acknowledge his abilities, and he could very well be the next chairman. The thought filled him with excitement, but doubt crept in. Could this really be true? It seemed almost too good to be real. The room fell into a heavy silence, with Giant Rock deep in thought, until Ryu-min spoke up again. But to succeed, you'll need to completely revamp your industry. What do you mean by that? Giant Rock asked, confusion breaking through his excitement. Before Ryu-min could respond, the bodyguard stood up abruptly, visibly angry. Change the industry? Are you serious? He exclaimed. Why would we do that? You might as well be asking us to change the company's name. If they're going to change the entire industry, it's only natural the company's name will change too, Ryu-min stated calmly. The room went silent, with everyone staring at him in disbelief. Is he serious? Giant Rock wondered. Did Ryu come all this way just to crack jokes? But Ryu wasn't joking. He was sitting firm, treating the conversation as seriously as the business at hand. In this room, everyone was a player, fully aware of the risks of casually revealing one's rune. And yet, Ryu-min had taken that risk, disclosing his ability without hesitation. Why? Because, as a major shareholder and someone intending to become a key player in the company's management, he needed them to understand the value he could bring. His $280 billion investment wasn't just for profit, it was to push the company toward success. To make that happen, they needed to cooperate with him. The bodyguard's skepticism broke the silence. Mr. Giant Rock, you can't actually believe this, right? But Giant Rock remained quiet, his expression unreadable. Ryu sighed, realizing they still didn't trust him. Honestly, I get it, Ryu said. You don't believe in my abilities. He turned to the bodyguard. Have you ever wondered why I moved into the house on the lower floor? The bodyguard froze, caught off guard. Wait, the lower floor, the thought clicked. Wasn't that the apartment right below Aaron's penthouse? Ryu continued, it's not just some random coincidence, is it? The bodyguard blinked, suddenly piecing things together. The house below CO Aaron's? What does he mean by that? Giant Rock urged him to explain it. Reluctantly, the bodyguard admitted, about 2 months ago, Mr. Ryu-min moved into the apartment directly beneath Aaron's penthouse. Ryu nodded. That was just a few days after I acquired the Rune of Future. Giant Rock's brows furrowed. Why are you bringing this up now? He asked, confused. The bodyguard shifted uncomfortably. I only learned about it today. But, think about it. If Ryu didn't have knowledge of the future, why would he move so close to someone tied to the company he was about to invest in? Giant Rock considered this. It seemed too deliberate to be a coincidence. But then again, couldn't Ryu just be someone with inside knowledge, someone aware that Giant Rock was sponsoring Aaron? As Giant Rock mulled it over, Ryu calmly enjoyed the meal in front of him. He knew it wasn't enough to convince Giant Rock yet. The CEO's expression still carried doubt. How about this? Ryu-min said, his voice calm and measured. The hotel we're in right now. Giant Rock, you own it, don't you? You're the eldest son of the Osum Group. You founded Heavenly Demon Consulting to prove yourself and earn your father's recognition. The bodyguard shot up from his chair, enraged. Who's feeding you this information? Only Giant Rock's close relatives know about that. Calm down, Ryu replied coolly, before turning to Giant Rock. Apologies, bodyguard muttered. Giant Rock remained silent, collecting his thoughts. While he admitted to himself that Ryu's statements were accurate, it still wasn't enough to convince him that this so-called foresight was real. Any family member could have told him. For all Giant Rock knew, Ryu could have been hired by someone to manipulate him. The idea of shifting their entire business strategy simply because one major shareholder suggested it sounded reckless, even absurd. Changing the entire industry based on your word sounds ridiculous, Giant Rock finally spoke, his voice steady. Sure, a rune that can see the future might be possible, but trusting your claims blindly? That's a different story. He leaned back in his chair, glancing at the bodyguard before continuing, Look, I appreciate your investment in my company. But this kind of discussion should be held at a shareholders' meeting. It's up to you to convince them, not just me. Giant Rock stood up, preparing to leave. Sorry, but I've got other meetings. I hope you understand. Ryu, unfazed, called out, Wait a moment. There's something more. Giant Rock paused, one hand on the chair. What else do you have to say? Internally, Ryu weighed his options. Is this the only way left, he thought. Finally, he spoke up, his voice carrying a hint of urgency. How about this, then? I'll give you intel about the 4th round. Giant Rock hesitated, turning back to face him. 4th round? What are you talking about? Ryu sat back down, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. I saw what's going to happen. The tragedy that's about to unfold. And I have the details. Wouldn't that be enough to prove my ability? Intrigued, Giant Rock sank back into his seat, faster than he had risen. You actually have information on round 4? Ryu nodded. I do. And if you listen, it'll be enough to show you what I'm capable of. Moments later, Ryu was gone, leaving Giant Rock and the bodyguard alone in the room, both still processing what they had just heard. The bodyguard bowed, his face flushed with shame. He had lost his composure earlier, raising his voice without thinking. That's all right, Giant Rock said, watching him closely. You were just looking out for me, right? Speak your mind. The bodyguard hesitated for a moment before speaking. To be honest, sir, I'm suspicious of that man. The idea of someone being able to see the future, it's just hard to believe. If Ryumin really has that kind of power, why would he want to help us? With an ability like that, he could live the life of his dreams. Why bother with us at all? Giant Rock nodded thoughtfully, listening as the bodyguard continued. Sure, he says he wants to grow alongside our company and make more money. But why? He's already got 280 billion won, more than enough to last several lifetimes, even if he spent it frivolously. Why take this kind of risk? Greed, Giant Rock replied after a pause. Human greed knows no limits. Still, you're right. It does seem too dangerous, too unbelievable. Who's to say a rune like that even exists? The bodyguard sighed. Exactly. But if Ryu is telling the truth, and he really can see the future, we need him on our side, no matter what. Just think about it. If he can give us insight into every round, we could prepare perfectly. It'd be like playing with a cheat code. Growing the company would just be a bonus. Giant Rock leaned back in his chair, contemplating his words. We'll know in time, won't we? Let's see how things unfold. Meanwhile, Ryu Min walked down the street, hands in his pockets, a small smirk on his face. He knew it was only a matter of time before they fully believed in his abilities. After the 4th round, there would be no doubt left. He hadn't revealed everything, he kept the critical details about side quests and top-rank strategies to himself, but what he had shared was more than enough. The most important part? Ryu had told them that round 4 wasn't going to be a hunt for monsters. It would be a bloodbath among the players. A massacre. He warned them not to be careless or complacent. That warning alone would prove his foresight. After that, they would treat him with the respect and reverence he deserved. They'd protect him, not because he was rich, but because he was their key to survival. After all, having a seer as an ally is far better than having one as an enemy, Ryu mused to himself, his confidence growing. Now that he was already playing the role, why not fully commit? With that decision made, he reached for his phone, realizing he needed to get in touch with someone. Meanwhile, Juri walked briskly down the street, her mind racing. She glanced at her watch, knowing she was running late. Standing at a red light, she tapped her foot impatiently, hoping it would change soon. Out of nowhere, a flashy sports car pulled up, blocking the entrance to the nearby grocery store. Confused, she stared at the car, wondering what the driver was thinking. Then the window lowered, revealing Ryu Min behind the wheel. Juri, he called out. She recognized him immediately. The light turned green, and she hurried across the street, making her way toward his car. Is this your car? She asked, her voice tinged with surprise. Yeah, Ryu nodded, offering a quick apology for parking in front of the store. Hop in. Let's go for a drive and talk. Sure, Juri agreed, curiosity piqued. As the car sped down the road, Juri couldn't help but be impressed by the luxurious vehicle. She had never been in a car like this before. Ryu mentioned it was his first drive in it too, having only recently bought it. How much did it cost? She asked, intrigued. Not much, Ryu replied nonchalantly. Around 900 million. 900 million? Juri exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. That's not much to you? Do you know how many convenience stores you could open with that kind of money? Ryu laughed softly. Compared to what I earned from the lottery, it really isn't that much. Fair enough, she admitted, shaking her head in amazement. She couldn't deny it, Ryu was incredibly wealthy. 60 billion from Nato? It's like we live in completely different worlds. We must conclude for today. If you enjoyed this part and want to see what happens next, please like and subscribe. Thank you.